Greetings, you guys. This is Cassandra Floyd, also known as the daughter of the Fates. And we're going to get started here in just a second with the continued reading, as long as I can get a rig my setup, with the continued reading of Pure Lust by Mary Daly. We have a pretty big day ahead of us as we prepare for the lunar eclipse that will be happening tomorrow. That lunar eclipse will be the last eclipse in this eclipse season, which has lasted, I think, 11 months. So it's a pretty big deal. So no, probably some of y'all got an attitude with me because I reneged on last night. But I'm not talking to myself. When I'm telling y'all in these readings, when I'm telling y'all in these lives, to honor yourself, baby, to honor your body, to honor your flesh. I went to bed at 8:30 last night and didn't wake up until 8 o'clock this morning. So that was what happened yesterday. And, but anyway, I will not leave you hanging. I will be able and prepared to put you on game to really show up and show out tomorrow on this lunar eclipse in the best possible way. Let's see, it's 3 minutes after. I think I might wait just a hair to allow for people to come in. And I am actually going to shift my desk just a little. I'm doing a lot today in terms of reorganizing, purging. I've been getting rid of so much stuff, it's ridiculous. I made the commitment that every time I walk out of my house, I'm taking a box of stuff to either donate to the Goodwill or take down to the area, to Skid Row area, to donate directly to homeless people. And so that's what I've been doing. My car is currently full of stuff waiting to be delivered. But for the last 2 weeks, when I say I have been purging seriously, I have been letting go. So please know that any advice that I give to y'all, I am actively taking personally and actively utilizing myself, because I am serious about this period that we are in and the need to power up. So, all right. So, all right. So yeah, and I also made the time earlier today. So I'm doing this reading at 5, like I always do. But this evening, instead of trying to do the 9:36 p.m. thing, it's just too much. It's just too much for me. I'm doing pretty much like a back-to-back live. So after I do the read of Pure Lust today, I'm going to take about an hour to recoup, and then we're going to do our live at 7:20 to be able to prepare for tomorrow's lunar eclipse. Yeah. Also, it's last minute and it's spontaneous, which is okay. There's a lot of energy involved in this lunar eclipse that, actually kind of falls in concert with spontaneity. So I'm not going to allow my Capricornian Virgo self get too analytical about the fact that I've waited till the last minute to call on folks to participate in a certain way locally. It is what it is, and I'm okay with it. Whoever's supposed to be in place will be in place. That is that. So, for those of you who are tuning in for the first time, this is Cassandra Faye Floyd, also known as the Daughter of the Fates. I am the founder of the Temple of Evolutionary Emergence. And we have been reading now for 2 weeks, Pure Lust, Elemental Feminist Philosophy by Mary Daly. Pure Lust, Elemental Feminist Philosophy by Mary Daly. So that is what we're reading. Yesterday, we left off on page 212, which, let's see, to make sure. Okay. All right. I'm just going to get started. So we're on page 212, the second paragraph down. Women are constantly invited to betray their own sex as the price for advancement. Greetings, Asia. Yo. I literally just started. So I just read one sentence. Women are constantly invited to betray their own sex as the price for advancement in a career, the object of their potted desires. Female physicians are often used in this way too. When the news of toxic shock syndrome associated with the use of tampons hit the papers, spokeswomen represented the position of the tampon manufacturers, functioning to contain or pot women's fears. A female epidemiologist from the Centers for Disease Control in Atlanta was cited in the New York Times as saying, "Greetings, Lotus Flower. Because we expect only a small number of women to get the disease, we are suggesting that women not discontinue tampon use unless they have the toxic shock syndrome already," end quote. The smallness of the number, hardly relevant to the individual women poisoned, seems to justify everything, including the physician's lethal detachment and the apparent smallness of her moral capacity. The pimping of women is not limited to the medical profession. One example from the early 80s, cited by the media potters of the New York Times, occurred in an article about a 4-day D.H. Lawrence festival honoring that misogynist. Quote, Professor Evelyn Hines attempted to rescue Lawrence's work from the charge of misogynism that has recently plagued it. Professor Hines, in a revisionist paper, asserted that Lawrence did not despise women, but rather venerated them. It was agreed by all sides in the discussion that the fact that Lawrence used to beat his wife, Frida, had nothing to do with the case. She was a singularly difficult woman, end quote. Indeed, the media men use women from all fields in such context to such an extent that the phenomenon becomes almost invisible because it's omnipresent. Emotional detachment from the plight of women on the part of women trying to attain recognition from the masters sometimes reaches such an extent that a woman claims the role of a pimp for herself. Damn. For herself. Again, this attitude is promoted in the media. It is summarized in the New York Times article on women making it in the corporate world, in which a female vice president division head of Chemical Bank is quoted as saying, quote, "The key to success is to sell yourself. Be creative. Make decisions. Take chances. Know you are marketable and walk out if things get too rough, end quote. Particularly mystifying is the mixture of daringly good advice, be creative, make decisions, take chances, with the counsel to sell yourself. The statement aptly exemplifies the state of real but potted, stunted daring. At the other end of the plastic potted spectrum is the omnipresent masochistic model. The promotion of such figures as Mother Teresa by the media feeds the embedded guilt and self-hatred of women who feel that they cannot live up to such standards of self-sacrifice. This promotion injection of pathology is reflected in the rash of self-flagellating letters to the editor, which follows each time Mother Teresa and her views are featured. When, in December 1979, she was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize, she was reported to have condemned abortion as the great destroyer of man in the world today. Oh. In an article in the Boston Globe entitled "Mother Teresa Hits Abortion," she is quoted as saying, quote, "To me, the nations which have legalized abortion, they are the poorest nations. They are afraid of little ones. They are afraid of the unborn child. And the child must die because they don't want to feed one more child, to educate one more child. So the child must die," end quote. The point here is not to question Mother Teresa's good intentions, but to see how her well-meaning but inherently woman-destroying simple views are massively used against women, eliciting not only guilt but also despair that there might be another way of being. Thus, the publicly legitimated alternatives seem to be the pseudo-self-serving, woman-betraying politics of a Scafley on the one hand, and the self-sacrificing, unconsciously woman-betraying beliefs of a Mother Teresa on the other. Greetings, team. The media featured stories succeed in making the self-sacrificing option less unattractive than the deeply hateful model of a Scafley. Typical of this article is the 1980 Boston Globe front page story entitled, "For Her Happiness is 11 Handicapped Kids." Oh my God. In which the mother of 14, 11 of whom were handicapped, is quoted as saying that although she is always tired, she is so happy that sometimes I feel guilty about it. Indeed, in the maternally potted world, no degree of self-sacrifice is enough to erase feminine guilt. Damn. Whoop. Let's see. In fact, the equation runs as follows. The more self-sacrifice, the more happiness, and therefore the more guilt. The extent of the emotional crippling of women by the incessant propaganda of prickery is incalculable. It is not my intent to attack any of the women whose beliefs and politics are used in this way to serve the masterminded media. In fact, they have been converted into attackers of themselves. My intent is to name the foreground fixing of female passion, the forces at work to freeze our fire. For these mutilating messages infect all women, killing the possibility of elemental emotion. Guilt, betrayal, unrealistic expectations. So for those of you who are just logging on or just tuning in, my name is Cassandra Faye Floyd, also known as the Daughter of the Fates. I am the founder of the Temple of Evolutionary Emergence, and we're currently reading in our second week, actually this is, I guess, our third week, Pure Lust, Elemental Feminist Philosophy by Mary Daly. Pure Lust, Elemental Feminist Philosophy by Mary Daly. The next section is Guilt, Betrayal, and Unrealistic Expectations. The psychic dislocation, which is at the very core of patriarchal consciousness, is a dislocation of the passions as well as the thinking of all women, insofar as we are still caught in the foreground. Our purging of these poisoned feelings is a process that has to be lived through, and the living is not possible without naming and realizing. Of all of the damaging and continually embedded pseudo-passions, the most poisonous probably is guilt. Damn, damn, damn. Damn, damn, damn. This, which spawns anxiety and falsely focused fear, is at the core of the undermining of feminist emotion, of pure lust. It is at the source of the unspeakable betrayals and abandonments that women have endured from each other, and I suggest that it is also at the root of the unreasonable expectations which women sometimes have of each other, once feminist awareness has become somewhat accessible. The betrayals, always deeply shocking, usually are not perceived as such by the betrayer. She too is struggling with seemingly unnameable emotions. At any rate, they are inadequately named passions that block insight. If she is therapeuticized, the chances are slim that she has escaped the victim-blaming psychobabble and the self-fixated solipsism. Somebody can Google that for me. solipsism. solipsism. Of endless dealing with that part of the therapeutic syndrome. In any case, I suggest that when the phenomena experienced as betrayal occurs, a woman look at the array of plastic and potted passions. It may help also to consider the word betray. One meaning is, quote, to lead astray and abandon a girl or woman, to seduce. It also means, quote, to deliver into the hands of an enemy by a trick. Ooh, child. It also means to lead astray and abandon, to deliver into the hands of an enemy by treachery or fraud in violation of trust. Yo, listen. It means to lead astray or abandon a girl or woman, to seduce. It also means to deliver into the hands of an enemy by treachery or fraud in violation of trust. The quality of being very self-centered or selfish. Thank you. Thank you, Charita. Thank you very much for that. A woman who has been betrayed by another woman has been led astray and then abandoned. This implies that she has some sort of expectations of the other, the betrayer. The expectations may have been reasonable or they may have been utterly unrealistic. The phenomena of real betrayal, the violation of reasonable expectations, as well as the phenomena of unreal expectations are both rooted and embedded in guilt. Within a feminist context, women who really do betray other women, particularly when this involves delivery into the hands of an enemy by treachery, are acting out of false loyalties inculcated by patriarchy. Women succumb to such false loyalties that involve treachery largely out of fear and anxiety, of course. However, the power of such fears to twist a woman against her own kind comes from some place other than realistic assessment of patriarchal retaliation for loyalty to women. It comes, I suggest, from the bottomless pit of man-made guilt for her very being, which, so long as it infests a woman's psyche, prohibits her from deep and sustained loyalty to other women. The knee-jerk response to a push of what may be called her guilt button is betrayal of the friend or comrade of the guilty woman to the party. Whether this be the male right or the male left, and whether the The party representative pushing the button and demanding betrayal is male or female. Unrealistic expectations, which result in feelings of having been betrayed or abandoned, are also traceable to man-made guilt in women. For the low degree and even the absence of self-esteem, an absence which is women's birth wrong within the Sado society, damn. It is the is the socially inherited consequence of the original sin. The original sin being having been born female. This patriarchally made pathology is displacement of responsibility for one's self-esteem onto others. Unless she is able to be her own source of self-esteem, having high expectations of herself, a woman is a bottomless pit of need. Oh, God. Oh, oh shit. Listen, y'all. Unless she is able to be her own source of self-esteem, having high expectations of herself, a woman is a bottomless pit of need, inviting, producing abandonment by other women who cannot bear this intolerable burden. Oh, damn. Damn. This exaggeration of expectations is sometimes heightened by feminist awareness at first, when unrealistic hopes are unleashed and projected onto feminists. I feel you, baby. That hit me in my spine. Then sisterhood becomes a horrifying reversal of itself and a perfect setup for justifying horizontal violence. Oh, damn. Damn. In an earlier chapter, I mentioned that women, in order to move, have to develop the courage to sin. Burning away false guilt. At this point, furious women need to elaborate further upon this concept and develop an analysis of the courage to sin originally. That is, the courage to commit the original sin. Oh. Oh, shit. I'm going to read that again. Damn. In an earlier chapter, I mentioned that women, in order to move, have to develop the courage to sin. Burning away false guilt. At this point, furious women need to elaborate further upon this concept and develop an analysis of the courage to sin originally. That is, the courage to commit the original sin. Damn! The pyrogenic mover, Lester, has to shed her inherited. She has to shed her inherited guilt attended upon the original sin of being born female, the guilt with which she has been cursed by the priesthoods of the cockocracy. Together with Snool imposed guilt, she needs to shed the other demonic pseudo passions. This act of shedding and purging is an original sin, a sinning and spinning forth of a woman's own originality. It is pyrogenesis, the birthing and flaming of the female fire. Woo! In order to arm ourselves to bring this about, prudes must consider the meaning of virtue. Damn. Virtue. Not only passions, but also virtues are counterfeited, plasticized, and potted in the fatherland. God damn! Oh Lord, y'all don't understand. This book is a complete and total, absolutely thorough undoing of everything done. God damn. Child, listen. She said not only passions, but virtues virtues are counterfeited and plasticized, potted in the fatherland. I have chosen the Aristotelian medieval naming and analysis of the virtues as a springboard for naming elemental pyromantic virtues. As with the passions, so also with the virtues, the classical analysis has refreshing clarity and complex simplicity that can be helpful to prudish pyrographers burning through jockocratic ethical jargon. For this reason, I will present briefly some aspects of that tradition's philosophy of the virtues. First, a virtue is understood to be a good operative habit that exists in a power of the soul. Virtue can reside in the intellect, in the will, or in the irascible, or in the concupiscible part of the sensitive appetite. The virtues of the speculative intellect, are wisdom, science, and understanding. There are two other intellectual virtues, art and prudence, which are in the practical intellect. The chief moral virtues are justice, which is in the will, courage and fortitude, which is in the irascible power, and temperance, which is in the concupiscible power. Concupiscible power. These three, together with prudence, which is defined as right reason about things to be done, are called the cardinal virtues. In addition to the chief moral virtues, there are clusters of subordinate virtues or parts connected with each. For example, according to Aquinas, virtues connected with fortitude are magnanimity, magnificence, patience, and perseverance. Second, prudence and the moral virtues are connected in an organic way. Thus, it is impossible to have moral virtues without also having prudence, since moral virtue requires good judgment in order to be a virtue at all. One cannot act justly, for example, without the exercise of right reason. Moreover, it is impossible to be prudent without possessing moral virtues, since reason about our actions is distorted by bad habits. One cannot act prudently, for example, if swayed by intemperance. Third, according to this philosophical tradition, moral virtues are deeply connected with the passions. Virtues are not identical with passions. However, for virtues are habits, not movements. They are principles of movements. The moral virtues, especially those residing in the I don't like this word. Concupiscible and irascible powers order specific passions. For example, the virtue of courage, especially and directly orders the passions of fear and daring. If fear repeatedly controls one's actions, the vice of cowardice replaces the virtue of courage. Damn! Oh, let me read that again. Listen, she says, the moral virtues, I hate these two words, but if we will recall from our reading yesterday, concupiscible and irascible mean concupiscible means of or relating to lust, lustful, sexual desire. And irascible is one who tends to anger easily. Okay? So I'm going to read that last sentence again. The moral virtues, especially those residing in the concupiscible and irascible powers, lust and anger, order specific passions. For example, the virtue of courage. Listen to this sentence. The virtue of courage, especially, and what else does she say about the difference between virtues and passions? Passions elicit movement, right? Passions guide movements. Virtues, she says, let's see. She says virtues do not elicit movement. She said they are cardinal virtues, right? Okay, so she says, for example, the virtue of courage, especially and directly orders the passions of fear and daring. Okay? If fear repeatedly controls one's actions, then the vice of cowardice, oh my God, replaces the virtue of courage. Ooh, listen. If fear repeatedly controls one's actions, oh my God, the vice of cowardice replaces the virtue of courage. Damn. If the passion of daring continually takes over and is not ordered by the virtues of courage and prudence, then the vice of rashness replaces the habit of courage. Damn. Clearly, a whole constellation of passions is connected with any moral virtue. Courage, for instance, is connected with love, desire, and hope, as well as hate, aversion, and despair. In order to act courageously, one must fight off unreasonable despair. Although it might be reasonable to despair over certain things, for example, becoming wealthy, while hoping for better things. Fourth, according to this tradition, prudence and moral virtues are always striving for the mean between extremes, the median or the mean between extremes. The mean, however, is not exactly the middle. Aristotle explained, quote, to the mean in some cases, the deficiency, in some cases, the excess is more opposed, i.e., it is not rashness, which is an excess, but cowardice, which is a deficiency. The example that she used above between the difference between like daring, rashness, and cowardice. She says he says cowardice is a deficiency that is more opposed to courage and not insensibility, which is a deficiency, but self-indulgence, which is an excess that is more opposed to temperance. As we have seen in examining traditional naming of passions, this tradition can provide elements useful for the sharpening of the labors. Okay, for those of you who don't know or who are new, labors is a double-edged axe. A double-edged axe. Not just a double-edged axe, like the rounded double-edged axe. It's actually, the labors is actually considered a weapon of the goddess historically before it was subdued and overcome by males. The traditional use and symbology of the double-edged blade or the labors was always the domain of the goddess. I feel you, Sister Lotus Flower. I'm glad to know I am not the only one getting my ass kicked reading this book. Okay. So anyway, she says, as we have seen in examining the traditional naming of passions, this tradition can provide elements useful for the sharpening of the labors. Women, thus sharpening, become shrewds, seeking the meanings of pyromantic virtues, discarding the master's immoral morality, being extreme. Pseudo virtues. In the Sado world in which reason is unrealized and passions plasticized, it is inevitable that the naming of virtues is vitiated, so that these are combined to form an ideology that legitimates the servitude of women. Y'all are killing me with these comments. The author keeps her foot on my neck, baby. Listen, she says, in the Sado world in which reason is unrealized and passions plasticized, it is inevitable that the naming of virtues is vitiated, so that these are combined to form an ideology. She's talking about passions and virtues, and the plasticization of passions and the unrealizing of virtues used as a weapon, as an ideological weapon that legitimates the servitude of women. Baby, it is not only that the names or nouns to designate virtues are in themselves incorrect. Rather, the problem consists primarily in the use of these words for naming and describing wrong actions. Thus, acts performed out of fear are honored and called prudent. Ooh. Likewise, petitioning and gratitude for the slightest relief from oppression and degradation, begging for crumbs, is considered an aggressive sense of justice. Ooh. Damn. Oh my God, y'all. Y'all ain't listening. Y'all hear what she just said? Oh, fuck. Listen. She said, thus. Okay, so she says, it is not only the names/nouns to designate virtues are in themselves incorrect. Rather, the problem consists primarily in the use of these words for naming or describing the wrong actions. Okay? Thus, acts performed out of fear are honored and called prudent. Likewise, petitioning and gratitude for the slightest relief from oppression and degradation, begging for crumbs, is considered an aggressive sense of justice. Oh my God. Oh my God. Yo, y'all. What is she saying? What are the petitioning and gratitude acts for the slightest relief from oppression and degradation that amount to begging for crumbs? That is called some sense of justice. Oh, could it be demonstrations? Could it be demonstrations? No justice, no peace. Hello, we won't go. The petition. Woo, child. Listen, she going off. She going off. Oh my gosh. Self-destructive acts performed by women are so consistently praised as courageous. Fuck. God damn. Self-destructive acts performed by women are so consistently praised as courageous, often by women, that the reality of this virtue is almost totally obscured. Damn. Temperance is identified with compliant obedience to male-made rules for sexual behavior of good women. What? What? Temperance. I know one of you Christians because I've done it myself. Have in our madness prayed for temperance. What? Temperance is identified with compliant obedience to male-made rules for sexual behavior of good women. Of course, compliant obedience to male rules for the sexual behavior of bad women is labeled intemperance. Typically, neither the virtue nor the vice has anything to do with elemental pyromantic virtue and vice. Indeed, these virtues and their opposing vices can aptly be called virile virtues and vices, for all are vitiating the vitality of virgins and viragos. As we have seen in the case of pseudo-passions, pseudo-virtues fall into two categories or species. To name the first species of pseudo-virtue, I am employing the expression plastic virtues. The second species will be designated as potted virtues. Pseudo-prudence versus pyrometric prudence. Within the litany of plastic virile virtues, plastic prudence is a euphemism for craven cowardice. I don't know what this word is. Pusillanimity, pusillanimity. I don't know what the fuck that is. I got another word, y'all. Pusillanimity. Pusillanimity. Okay? It is a spiritually mercantile habit. The dictionary conveys this plasticity aptly. Prudence is said to mean, quote, providence in the use of resources, economy, frugality, wealth due to prudence during prosperous times, and attentiveness to possible hazard or disadvantage, circumspection, caution. Prudence not to go unescorted, W.A. Swanberg. Conservative from prudence, T.S. Eliot. Infellocentric, a lack of courage or determination, timidity. Thank you. Excuse me while I take a note on this. Can you give me the breakdown, the grammatical breakdown of this word? Pusillanimity. Greetings, Mo Will. And you said it is the lack of courage or determination. Lack of courage or determination. Pusillanimity. Determination. Timidity. Okay, thank you. Okay. In phallocentric lore, it is feminine prudence. William Blake blatantly summarizes the reversals implied in pudence. Quote, pudence is a rich, ugly old maid courted by incapacity, end quote. Spiritually rich, ugly old maids, that is, spinsters and prudes, aren't able to ask questions that can crack those stereotypes. For example, Whose incapacity, impotence is threatened by prudes? Whose courtship is rejected because of his radical incapacity? Whose rancour inspires the epitaph ugly old maid, which is so universally applied to spinning spinsters? Plug ugly pundits have accurately described the prevailing plastic prudence. Mark Twain wrote, quote, "It is by the goodness of God that in our country we have those three unspeakably precious things: freedom of speech, freedom of conscience, and the prudence never to practice either of them." End quote. The moral turpitude wittily identified here is more ponderously expressed by others. For example, the 18th century British statesman and orator Edmund Burke, who intoned the faith of the fathers, quote, "All government, indeed, every human benefit and enjoyment, every virtue and every prudent act is founded on compromise and barter," end quote. While this does express the prevailing morality, it hardly describes passionate pyromantic prudence. We have seen something of the condition of plastic prudence. The other form of pseudo-prudence, potted prudence, is, like potted passion, stunted, enclosed, abridged, made superficially attractive. This exists when a woman's passions are potted. Thus, a female executive, academic, politician who is possessed by potted desire or ambition is controlled by potted fears. What will people think? May transcend mere mercantile plastic prudence, and yet she lacks the fire of pyrometric practical wisdom. Read what again? How far back? How far back? Okay, I'll read where it says the moral turpitude. That's where I'll start. The moral turpitude wittily identified here is more ponderously expressed by others. For example, the 18th century British statesman and orator Edmund Burke, who intoned the faith of the fathers, quote, "All government, indeed, every human benefit and enjoyment, every virtue and every prudent act is founded on compromise and barter," end quote. While this does express the prevailing morality of that time, it hardly describes passionate pyromantic prudence. We have seen something of the condition of plastic prudence. The other form of pseudo-prudence, potted prudence, is, like potted passion, stunted, enclosed, abridged, made superficially attractive. This exists when a woman's passions are potted. Thus, a female executive, academic, politician who is possessed by potted desire or ambition and controlled by her potted fears, what will people think, may transcend mere mercantile plastic prudence, and yet she still lacks the fire of pyrometric practical wisdom. In the course of transversing the pyrospheres, prudes, shrews, will discover and study our own prudence, which, unlike the paternal, virile variety, is informed by deep passion. Pyromantic prudence reflects the situation of pyrogenetic women. Unlike virile virtue, which consists in choosing the means between extremes, our prudence reflects both our experience and our movement, which are both extreme. Both our exorcism and our ecstasy demand passionate choices that are extreme. The practical wisdom that is our prudence is pyrosophy. Our judgments are pyrometric, and they are steps in unfolding our skills in pyrometry. Pyrometry. Certainly, prudes, informed by our own extreme prudence, do strive to discover the pyrometric measure in virtue, according to our own measurements. Thus, a prude would choose courageous acts that transcend the vices of cowardice and rashness. Thus, a prude would choose courageous acts that transcend the vices of cowardice and rashness. However, our prudently chosen courage, informed by dreadful daring, is very close to rashness and is rash in the sense of full of life and vigor, energetic, but not in the sense of acting, done, or expressed with undue haste or disregard for consequences. Prudes carefully consider the consequences of our acts, and then we act ragingly and wildly. Ragingly and wildly. The task of unmasking the moral pseudo virtues. Of all the moral virtues, none is more pompously advocated in platitudes and ponderous tones than justice. Oh, come the fuck on in the room. Come on in the motherfucking room. Damn. Yes. She said, of all the moral virtues, none is more pompously advocated in platitudes and ponderous tones than justice. Yet the very idea that there could be justice within patriarchal society, sustained by phallic myths and ideologies, is a logical absurdity. Come the fuck on. Listen. She said, yet the very idea that there could ever be justice within patriarchal society, sustained by phallic myths and ideologies, is a logical absurdity. In this asymmetric system, there is oppression of women and of all others who are treated like women by powerful males, such as third world people and all poor people. And there is privilege. For some women, there can be derivative privilege by reason of association with certain males, particularly if these women are upper or at least middle class, white, and Western. But this dependent and derivative status has nothing to do with justice. The justice of the father's foreground is false, elementary, plastic. This is not to say that women should not seek equal pay or equal rights amendment. It is to say that one should not be misled by such misnomers. Oh, goddamn. Yo. She said, this is not to say that women should not seek equal pay. Excuse me. Or the Equal Rights Amendment. It is to say that one should not be misled by such misnomers. To believe that such changes will bring about real equality while failing to understand the need for almost ineffable changes at the very heart of consciousness, is to settle for potted justice, knowing that there will never be equal rights or full civil rights within the patriarchy, but that there can be some relief of oppression and improvement of some conditions. Nagsters righteously nag for such political changes in the foreground. As agnostics, however, we know that our empowering and moving are essentially in the deeper realms, and that our real journey is weirdward. Okay? Pyro-Gnostic seekers seek beyond justice for nemesis. This goddess of retribution, beyond justice for nemesis. Listen, she said Pyro-Gnostic seekers seek beyond justice for nemesis. This goddess, nemesis, this goddess of retribution is to be sought in the pyrospheres, although she is commonly associated with revenge. Pyrologians passionately understand that her most gratifying acts are the rewarding of those who ardently seek her. Oh, fuck. God damn. Hold up. Oh, hold up. Nemesis as divine vengeance, has often been envisioned by pyrophobic male mythographers as a visitation in the form of elemental phenomenon. Nemesis as rewarding power is known to be extremely elemental by pyrosophic women, whose quest for nemesis within the pyrospheres is passionate and virtuous. Y'all, I got a story for y'all. Goddamn. Plastic courage, also called fortitude. Damn. Plastic courage, also called fortitude. Fortitude is omnipresent in snooldom. It is thought-killing to discover that in classical Christian theology, one of the principal acts of fortitude was believed to be martyrdom. Baby. God, dog it. Jesus, yes, come on. Yes. God dog it. Child, I got a story for y'all. Woo, child. This is indeed the principal act required of women, martyrdom. It is ironic that the word martyr is etymologically associated with the Latin memor, M-E-M-O-R, meaning mindful or remembering. For the martyrdom of women issues in the fabrication of foreground memories that block out deep memory. Martyrdom, which is the suffering of death on account of adherence to one's religious faith or to any cause, has been the programmed punishment for witches who are faithful to the cause of women. She said martyrdom, which is the suffering of death on account or adherence to one's religious faith or any other cause, has been programmed punishment for witches who are faithful to the cause of women. The martyrdom massacre of witches, which happens in all places in all times of patriarchy, wipes out archaic memory by wiping out women and by manufacturing terror. The consequent fabricated foreground memories set the stage for the martyrdom of women in the usual sense of Christian martyrdom, masochistic self-sacrifice. In this second kind of martyrdom, women are complicit in their own self-sacrifice for the causes that are not our own. Oh my God. Yo. The consequence of fabricated foreground memories set the stage for the martyrdom of women in the usual sense of Christian martyrdom, masochistic self-sacrifice. In this second kind of martyrdom, women are complicit. God damn it. Women are complicit in their own self-sacrifice for causes that are not our own, having become fixed with false loyalties to pseudo religions and other institutions that erase women and all things wild. Oh, damn. The plastic courage manifested in masochistic acts of martyrdom fixes women in a static state, which is the state of martyrdom. Within this state, women are offered various models of suicide, the slow, passive, long-suffering forms being the most popular. There is also what I would call the athenic form of plastic courage, the ultimate expression of which also is masochism and martyrdom. The twice-born Athena, fighting the battles of the fathers and the sons, lacks loyalty to her sisters. Oh, yo. She says, she calls this the athenic form of plastic courage, the ultimate expression of which is also masochism and martyrdom. The twice-born Athena, fighting the battles of the fathers and the sons, lacks loyalty to her sisters. In this role, she is a practitioner, a model of masochistic courage, for her deep self-interest is denied, defeated, often with the deluded belief that she is acting out of enlightened self-interest. Oh, she is in fact acting for the interest of the foreground fictional self, and she fosters this fiction. The fictional fighter counterfeit Amazon, as fictional fighter, counterfeit Amazon, she discourages women into masochistic martyrdom in servitude to the Sado state. More deceptive than the overtly self-sacrificing woman, she practices the Sado soldier's virtue, willingly accepting the death of herself in a battle that is not for her own cause, voluntarily serving an army that intends the destruction of herself, for that self is the ancient enemy of the lecherous state. Damn. Y'all. All right, you guys, that's where I'm going to end. So for those of you who've been following along, we're at the bottom in the last paragraph of page 222. That's where we'll pick up tomorrow at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I'm going to go ahead and be disciplined about logging off now because I am going to be back on. I'm going to be returning to do a live at 7:20 Pacific Standard Time. The 9:36, it was just too much. It was just too much. It was too much. It was too much. So at 7:20, which is in an hour and 20 minutes, I will be back to do a very disciplined 1 hour live. In this 1 hour live, I will be teaching. It's going to be kind of workshop style. I'm going to be teaching you how to pull together a very basic, rudimentary ancestral shrine. And with the setting up of this shrine, you are going to use the moon tomorrow to consecrate your own shrine. Okay? Now, so I'm going to be back in an hour and 20 minutes to teach you how to tell you the materials that you're going to need, teach you how to erect your ancestral shrine. If you already have an ancestral altar, you can apply this basic information to erecting a goddess shrine or a goddess altar or whatever it is you want to do. Okay. But we're doing this in time for this lunar eclipse tomorrow, which is the last of this eclipse season, happening in Taurus within the sign of Scorpio. It too, just like the last eclipse, is being ruled by Venus, while Pluto is still at play, Jupiter is still at play, Mars and Mercury are all on deck for this eclipse tomorrow. And contrary to what you heard, we doing ritual tomorrow. Okay? So that's what I'm going to be talking to you about tonight in an hour and 20 minutes. I'm about to go grab myself some grub, power up a little bit, and then I will be back to do this live. Okay? So thank you again. My name is Cassandra Floyd, also known as the Daughter of the Fates. We have just rounded out our 18th session of reading Pure Lust by Mary Daly. Pure Lust, Elemental Feminist Philosophy by Mary Daly. So I'll return with that tomorrow. And tonight I will see you in an hour and 20 minutes. So get ready. Get ready with notes, a pen, and a piece of paper, because I'm going to give you a lot of information in a little bit of time. All right? So see you then.